Hey guys, welcome in for week 10, Willie Willie Creamin's Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Here we go. Let's get rolling in things in week 10. Glad to be back again. I know I promised some big changes coming through, and I'm going to try to focus a little more on some fantasy takes as we go through this. I definitely have the game with the Colts and the Pats going on, kind of seeing the end of that fiasco as it is, but kind of sad game to watch, to be honest. Especially a lot of my boys are New England fans. Really tough to kind of see exactly what they're going through. My heart's with them, but listen, we'll dive into things real quick here. All right, let's get going here. So week 10 buys that we've got some good ones here. Sad to see that we're not going to get some action between these three powerhouse teams, but also LA's been sneakily good this year, and that's a word I'm going to start using a little more often in the streams. I really like it a lot. But listen, Kansas City, obviously, if you've got Mahomes, Kelsey, Pacheco, any of those guys, Rasheed Rice in some leagues, you got to sit them this week. Same thing with Philly. You're missing out on Jalen Hurts. I know it's really tough in my guillotine league losing him, but you've also got Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, Dallas Goddard, and DeAndre Swift as well, which is a really big loss to be able to go through on this week. In Miami, basically their whole squad, right? Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, all four of them have been absolute studs this year. And then A Chain, obviously, still I think a little banged up, but we should be see him start to come back at some point soon. In LA, obviously Matt Stafford, you've got Nakua, and then Cooper Cup, and then we should see Williams return at some point soon. I'm just not sure. I've got to read up more on that to find out exactly how he's doing in terms of his rehab. But dive into things real quick here. First game we've got Houston at Cincinnati. And listen, this is one that we talked about on the podcast this week. Very interesting one for certain because CJ Stroud's been very good this year. We look at what he's been able to do, and some people say, he kind of came into the league with a chip on his shoulder, really wasn't concerned with what people were saying about him. And some of the critics saying exactly that he wasn't smart enough to be able to handle the playbook. Just maybe that he couldn't really run a good system and stuff. You see some of the previous quarterbacks that had come through Ohio State. Justin Fields not acclimate to the NFL very well. Well, CJ Stroud is here and he's putting the league on notice. Last week was obviously an incredible game. We talked about that during the podcast. It was incredible to be able to watch him drive that comeback, the way he played against Tampa Bay. It was really cool to watch. He's been very good this year, and I think it's just been him kind of learning the system, understanding exactly what he needs to do within that system. He was taking quite a few sacks at the beginning there. Guys, by the way, sorry to cut this up. Just saw the Colts and Pats went live final here. Colts ended up winning 10-6. Looks like New England's still vying for one of the top picks in the draft this year. But back on this, CJ Stroud has just been an absolute stud, understanding a lot of the playbook, the calls. He's taken less sacks. He's only committed, I think, one turnover. And if you go back and look at that, it really wasn't a turnover. I think they ended up fumbling after they picked him off and they got the ball back. It really didn't matter that much. But this week, listen, he's going up against a juggernaut this week in Cincinnati and he's going to have to do it without a few pieces, right? Damian Pierce is out this week. I know that hurts some fantasy lineups, but he really hasn't been that great this year, partially because their line really hasn't been that good in terms of running the ball. Nico Collins, he's out as well. They're also missing their kicker again, Kaimi Fairbairn. He got hurt last week, and they had their running back in there kicking the ball for him. But listen, it's just tough when you're missing a kicker like that, especially one that is used to making a lot of field goals. I expect them to go for two very often, and it's kind of tough because in a couple of my leagues I've got CJ Stroud. A couple more I'm playing against him this week, so it's bittersweet. Nice little catch-22 with having him in your lineups this week. He did find out some good news that Robert Woods is active, but listen, this guy's been limited, hasn't really done much in practice all week. I'm not sure he's really going to have much to be able to do. Oh, there's a clock rhythm. What's going on, bro? Good to have you back again, man. Thank you for showing up and supporting. Now, like I said, CJ Stroud's coming up against a very good Cincinnati team that seems to have figured it out. Joe Burrow's healthy now. He's not struggling like he was at the beginning of the year. This team seems to be clicking. He's going to be without T. Higgins this week, but they are going to have Jamar Chase. He is going to be active. And listen, Cincinnati's getting 5.5. I really think it's going to be a lot closer than that. But Stroud is going to learn from an experienced veteran today in Burrow. Burrow is always cool, calm, and collected when he plays. He's going to end up seeing that as an example today, and I wonder if Stroud actually does push him a little further. And I don't mean just Burrow; they're not playing against each other, but playing obviously against Cincinnati's defense and Burrow playing against Houston's defense. But what I mean by that is, I think they're going to push the ball down the field quite a bit. I think they may be able to keep the game kind of close. I do have Cincinnati winning this game, but could Stroud be the new coming of Burrow? Like I know Joe Burrow's been only in the league a couple years, but is Stroud that new type of quarterback that comes in? He's outproduced all the other quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round. So, and I mean he's a lock in for rookie of the year at this point. As long as he stays healthy and continues on somewhat of a decent pace, I think it's a lock for him. I don't think any of these guys are going to touch him. So all right, let's move on here real quick. Next game we've got New Orleans at Minnesota. Now, this one does have some interesting fantasy implications, but let's go through some of the injuries first. Obviously, Justin Jefferson still out, though Minnesota did open up his 21-day window, which is very important because I know he's not. He said he's not going to play until he's 100% and the hamstring's good, but that means he's back within 3 weeks. So we're looking at him at the latest coming back week 13, and I really like that. I think that's wonderful. So we've also got KJ Osborne who's out today. He's in the concussion protocol, still coming out of that after that vicious hit last week. Hawkinson is active today. Jaron Hall out as well. He's in concussion protocol. And I expect another wild game from Dobbs because this guy, and I think I read somewhere that he is an actual rocket scientist. I mean, this is the third team he's been on this year, and it seems like every place guys rave about him, how good he is. I don't know why you would trade a guy like this away. I don't know, but I think he falls right into Minnesota's lap at a great time. Really sad to see Cousins go down the way he did, but Dobbs is going to step in, take control of this team, and I really think he's got the opportunity to not only lead Minnesota into the playoffs, which they're already in if the playoffs start today, but I think he's got a chance to actually surprise quite a few teams the rest of the way. So Michael Thomas, he's surprisingly active, especially after that battery charge earlier this week. Kind of some craziness coming out about that, saying that guys were parking, close to his lawn or something like that, and he went out and like threw a brick at the guy's window. I don't know. I don't understand. I guess this has been going on for weeks now, so kind of sad to see something like this happen where he's going to assault one of these guys, but or maybe he didn't assault him, but just with the bat. With the brick, it just I don't get it, man. Like just show up, play football, get paid. Don't get caught up with this type of stuff. Don't you have people in your life that can handle this for you? I don't get it. So Kendry Miller, he's going to be out today, which means more for Jamal Williams, more for Alvin Kamara as well. Chris Olave, he's a must start today. He's a must start every week. If you're not starting him in your lineup, I'm not sure what you're doing. Derek Carr, listen, I have him streaming in one league this week. I don't want to, but with some of the guys that are out, you've got Mahomes, Hurts, Tua out this week, and Stafford as well. I really think you got to go to better options to see exactly what you can find. Carr seems to be one of those options as he's been pretty serviceable over the last 3 weeks. It looks like he's scored over 20 points in fantasy the last 3 weeks. That's a guy I want to bank on. So New Orleans is getting 3 points in this game. And I really think I'm riding the Dobbs train. I realize New Orleans is favored on that. I just think Minnesota, they're going to be winning this game, and they're going to do it on his back. I expect Addison to continue to build rapport with Dobbs, and I think they're doing a really good job of that. Kamara has seen his role reduced in the last few weeks, and I don't know anyone that many people that have been watching this particularly because they keep seeing the points going up for him and stuff, and he's still putting up good points in fantasy. But his efficiency metrics have been down the last 3 weeks, and it just does not look good. It's trending in a bad direction. Not something I want to be a part of this week against Minnesota. I'm actually sitting him this week in favor of some better options in guillotine. All right, let's see here. Next game we've got Green Bay at Pittsburgh. So this is actually not really a great game that I want to talk about really. Um, Green Bay, they've just been super disappointing this year. They don't seem like they have anything under control in terms of offense. Aaron Jones, I guess if you drafted him, you're starting him because he's that guy there. He's the one guy that they can hand off to, but I still don't think anyone on this team is really worth starting at this point. Musgrave was looking good at the beginning. He got banged up with a few injuries. Jaden Reed had a decent week. He scored 2 touchdowns in 1 week. He's got 3 on the season, but he's looked like crud the last few weeks. So I really don't know. Like, I don't think anyone on that Green Bay team is really worth starting at this point until they start to get things figured out in a much better way. I'm looking. Najee Harris has been sneakily better. You like that? Sneakily better the last few weeks. I know people are still concerned about his efficiency metrics, but he's been scoring more in fantasy, and he's a guy that I was believing at the beginning of the year. I'm going to stick with him now. Jalen Warren, listen, I'm in one of my leagues. I'm starting both of them, and I know some people would scoff at that, but tell me, with some of the running backs that are out this week and some of the injuries that have happened this year, tell me you're not backed into a corner doing that as well. I know it doesn't seem favorable, but both of them putting up double digit points every week, that feels good. So they're going to remain in my starting lineup, and I'll look smarter for it. Pittsburgh, they're getting 3 points, I also have them winning this, especially with Jaire Alexander out. With him gone, I think it just opens up this offense even more and gives them an opportunity to do more with that. I expect it to be a low scoring affair, though. Green Bay's offense, like I mentioned, has just had tons of issues. I don't expect them getting it on track this week against this Pittsburgh defense. I just don't see that being a possibility. All right. So next we've got Tennessee at Tampa Bay. Now, Traylon Burks is out in this game. Tannehill's out, so Levis is going to get the start again. They're going to be leaning on Henry and Hopkins, but Tampa Bay's defense, especially their rushing defense, is pretty good. So I expect a little less Henry, a little more Hopkins. I slid Hopkins into my guillotine lineup as a flex instead of Kamara. I really think Hopkins is going to have a good game this week. So Baker also, listen, he's been a sneaky streaming option this year. Some games he's thrown up duds. I get that. Sometimes that's going to happen. He's not a top tier quarterback, but if you're in a pinch, this may be the game to be able to throw him in there. Rashad White, he's been better the last 3 weeks, and he's getting more of the receiving usage, which is definitely a nice thing for him. You look at it, I think 6, 7 catches. I really like that in the first 2 of those 3 games. Last week, he got 20 carries, so he's getting the rock to be able to show what he can do. Any guy that's getting 20 carries a game, I'd be starting him because there's going to be opportunity for him. I think you have to plug him into your lineup this week. Listen, Godwin, he dropped a dud last week. I was kind of pissed. I had him in my guillotine league, and he didn't really do anything. Thank God he didn't cost me the week. Other than that, that's been his only dud of the season. So I really think he's going to rebound. I have better options in my guillotine lineup this week. I'm not putting him in there. So if you're in a pinch, definitely throw him out there, but not for me this week. So Evans, listen, this is a guy I did not draft him, very much like Aaron Jones. Those are guys I just don't draft typically in fantasy. But if you've got Mike Evans on your lineup, if you've got Mike Evans on your roster, you're starting him every single week. And the case in point was last year during the playoffs when he popped off for almost 60 points in the game. You have to be able to throw him out there because you never know. And he's a big enough target, a big enough body that you have to be able to throw him in there. He's always got a chance to come down with a touchdown. And trust me, the week you choose not to start him is the week he's going to pop off. So don't make that mistake. In this game, Tampa Bay's getting 2.5. I have them winning this as well. Listen, they're going to rebound from that 4-game losing streak. I feel bad for them for that. I think they're a better team than they've been showing. They started off the season pretty hot, and I think Baker is a better quarterback than people give him credit for. So definitely have Tampa Bay winning this one. All right, San Francisco at Jacksonville. Listen, we talked about this one on the podcast earlier this week. This is going to be an interesting game because San Francisco's riding that 3-game losing streak. Jacksonville's riding the 5-game winning streak. But here's the thing, and this is where the rubber meets the road. I'm going to flip my decision on this from what I said earlier in the week. And listen, that was Wednesday. I did not know that both Debo and Trent Williams were going to be active. That kind of changes things. And if you don't believe me, look at some of the metrics when it comes to Brock Purdy and Debo Samuel. It's very, very, compelling when you see that. So with both of them being active, I'm going to switch my pick and pick San Francisco for this game. But let's get into some of these guys. Listen, CMC, he's going to be doing his thing this week. Debo's going to get the ball. Trent Williams is going to provide Purdy enough time and enough protection to be able to sling the rock. Ayuk and Kittle, listen, if you've drafted these guys, they're must starts. And I realize Kittle is kind of a hit or miss, boom or bust type guy, but you don't want him, just like I was saying with Evans, you don't want him on your bench when he pops off. It just doesn't feel good. And I know Kittle's one of those guys I typically don't draft either, like I'd mentioned with Mike Evans and Aaron Jones. But Kittle fell to me in the 6th round. I had to take him. Like, I just didn't have a choice. When you're looking at that kind of talent and that upside falling to you in the 6th round of a draft, you got to take it. So, in terms of Jacksonville, listen, Trevor Lawrence hasn't been what we thought he was going to be this season, and we've all been expecting more out of him. Listen, he's going to get it figured out with them. Jacksonville's been winning games with him not being perfect. So, with him being able to kind of figure it out and go along, we're hoping that that production is going to increase. It's going to get better, so on and so forth. But listen, the main driving part of this team has been Etienne. He has been an absolute stud. Joe Orico talked about him earlier. I know the fantasy pros, they mentioned him as well, but Andrew Erickson, listen, they were riding Etienne all in the offseason. There's a reason. He's good. He's a great running back. If he didn't get drafted early in the 3rd round, he would have been on my team. But this is a guy who's popped off this year. He's done exactly what we were hoping he would do. He's been utilized the way we hope he would, and he's been just absolutely crushing it in fantasy. So I expect him to have another good game. Even against San Francisco, they're going to find ways to scheme him open. So Ridley, listen, I've been hoping for more with Calvin Ridley this year. It's been kind of sad that he's had like that great opening season, opening game debut, and then really hasn't been great since then. And we've been hoping that it would get back to that. It just hasn't, and kind of frustrating to see that. But listen, I'm hoping that as the season goes, I hate to keep using that word hoping, but I'm hoping that it's going to get better between him and Lawrence. This week, I'm not starting Ridley, except in one league where I absolutely have to. Christian Kirk would be a better option for me, especially in PPR. I just think he's going to have a better opportunity against the San Francisco defense. Evan Ingram, listen, you might have to start him with the tight end buys that we have this week. I would be trotting him out there in this game because I think him and Kirk are going to have a better chance than Ridley. Watch me be wrong, though. So San Francisco's getting the 3 points. Like I said, I cannot stick with Jacksonville, not after knowing Debo and Trent Williams are going to be active. So I am going to be going with San Francisco. And another thing I was going to mention is Jacksonville just doesn't play good at home. So if you needed more of a convincing fact for that. Vash Aaron, thank you for entering the channel. What's up, bro? Hope everything's going well. Thank you for the support, man. I really appreciate it. All right, next game we've got here. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit because I want to get you guys in there for the 1:00 kickoff. But Cleveland at Baltimore. Listen, Amari Cooper. I think you gotta trot him out there. He's got a potential every single week. He's an alpha number 1 wide receiver. He just doesn't act like one. So I really would be, if he's on my roster, I'm trotting him out there. David Njoku, listen, he could be a sleeper pick for me this week. I really like the way he's been incorporated in the offense the last few weeks. He's been getting more opportunities, and I really like the way that he's been able to take advantage of those. In terms of Baltimore, and by the way, the reason I stopped talking about Cleveland after that is because they don't really have anyone else I'm considering putting in my lineup this week at all. Not Ford, not Hunt, not Watson. So Lamar, listen, he's having an MVP season. You have to be able to start him every single week. If you're not, please, please get it together, man. So Andrews, he's been an absolute stud this year. I've been having a lot of fun watching him, and he's just a small take on him. He reminds me a bit of my dad. My dad had the opportunity to play D1 football, but he ended up breaking his ankle. But the way he plays the game was very physical, and when I see film of my dad, I'm reminded of it very much that way. So granted, we're talking about 2 different levels, but again, the way he plays the game, the physicality, it reminds me a lot of him. So Zay Flowers as well. Listen, he's built the rapport. He's put the time in to build it with Lamar, and he's been reaping benefits of that all year. Listen, there's been a few down weeks that's going to happen, especially in a rookie season, but he's going to continue to get production because he's going to continue to get opportunities. So make sure that you keep having him in your lineup. Keaton Mitchell is going to be active for the Ravens. And listen, that the reason that's important is because he's going to be splitting carries with Bus Edwards this week. So just be on the lookout if you're a Bus Edwards owner. You want to make sure that may not be the best week to start him, especially not against this Cleveland defense. But hey, to each his own. So Baltimore is getting 6 points this week on against this game against Cleveland. Listen, they've had two impressive wins over NFC teams that we all thought were pretty good in Detroit and Seattle. But I think what you're seeing this year that you haven't seen in previous years is Lamar's fully healthy, Mark Andrews is fully healthy, and they have a very good defense. And listen, this team could be legit, but I still don't buy into them being better than the best two teams that I deem in the AFC. And that's Cincinnati with a healthy Joe Burrow and Kansas City. Kansas City still wears the crown. They wear it for a reason. I know they haven't been the Kansas City we've been used to, but until Baltimore goes up and can beat them in Kansas City, I'm still going to say Kansas City's the Kings. Joe Burrow has had the ability to has proven he has the ability to be able to do that. And I think now that he's healthy, you're seeing what he's capable of doing. Case in point, what he was doing against San Francisco last week. So be on the lookout for that, but I still pick Baltimore in this game. All right, Atlanta at Arizona. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. So you've got Matt Collins who's out. I'll talk real quickly about Atlanta. Bijan Robinson, listen, I love starting this guy. He's going to have opportunities. Yeah, every week's not going to be a crazy stellar stat line for him, but you've got to have faith in him. And listen, the Arthur Smith haters, just please, like, keep to yourself, man. Like, Bijan Robinson has so much talent. They're trying to get him the ball. He knows that if he puts the ball in Bijan's hands, they're going to have a better opportunity. But Bijan's not open on every play. Every play's not meant for him. So just have faith. Listen, they're going to continue to use him effectively. He's going to have down games sometimes. Happens. Kyle Pitts and Drake London, listen, I'm just not a fan of either one of these guys. I'm a fan of Kyle Pitts. I'm just not a fan of the way they're utilized. So I think they have a better shot with Heineke behind that line, but I'm still not completely sold on them. It's just hard to argue against an Arizona team that really isn't that good. However, interesting news about Arizona this week. Kyler Murray is active. We will see Kyler Murray suit up this week. So I am very excited to see this game tonight. James Conner is also going to be active. So Kyler Murray gets some of his toys back as well. So this team is finally going to be what we were hoping they would be, or hoping what they would have in terms of a lineup, finally in week 10 of the 2023 NFL season. So Michael Wilson, he is questionable. But listen, Marquise Brown, he's a must start this week with Kyler there. Rondale Moore, I picked up in a few different leagues. Listen, he is a sneaky start as well. I really think that they're going to have good opportunity to be able to get things done. Trey McBride, another good start this week. I think they will be able to capitalize on a lot of the things that they've been able to do. And one last thing I want to mention is this could be a very interesting game because next year, if Arizona decides not to keep Kyler Murray, I think Atlanta would be a perfect spot for him. And I think Atlanta's team would be much better with Kyler Murray on that team. So just keep that in mind as you're watching this game today. Listen, Atlanta's getting 2.5. I am going to still go with Atlanta this game because I think it's going to be a little rough for Murray coming back. But I do think we see a very decent game from him. I just think it's going to take him a few weeks to be able to get back to where he was before and what we expect of him. And again, you're going to see more Bijan. So let's move on here. We got Detroit at the Chargers. So the only big one here, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Listen, he just got traded over there. He's questionable. He's still learning the playbook. He's still kind of working his way into the lineup and stuff. So it's probably going to be maybe another week even before we see him. But David Montgomery is back. And I'll tell you, I cannot be happier to see him back. I think this is going to be an amazing game to watch today. So not only is Montgomery back, but it's going to make Jameer Gibbs better because you're not going to have to see him tote the rock 20 times. He's going to be more fast and more elusive when he comes out on third down or, if they throw him in there on second down packages. I think that's going to be much better for him. It's going to open up the whole offense for everybody. Listen, Goff, yes. Laporta, yes. Amon Ra, always. These are guys that you should have in your lineup every week, especially if Goff is your starting quarterback. Definitely trot him out there. Herbert, listen, I'm starting him due to the Hurts bye week this week, so I've got him going. I'm hoping that they do well, but I don't know. Detroit's a good football team, so Eckler, he's a must start every week. You have to start him even against this tough Detroit team. Allen, Keenan Allen, you have to start him as well. He's just too good of a receiver. He's having too good of a season. And this is kind of funny for a guy that we were saying was over the hill and washed. So love to see Keenan Allen playing well. And I love that he's on multiple of my fantasy teams. So one guy I was going to mention is Quentin Johnston. Do we see more of him and him start to get involved more as we move forward here? I hope so, but I don't know. I think we may see him start to emerge, which could be a good thing. Now, in this game, Detroit's getting 2.5, and I like Detroit big time in this game. And in fact, not only do I like them big time, but I think they are going to control the line of scrimmage. They are going to beat Los Angeles up, and this could be a very special week. Ladies and gentlemen, this could be the week we see Brandon Staley get fired. I don't think so, but we can all hold out hope that eventually he gets replaced there. Maybe Kellen Moore steps in. I don't know. Anybody but this dude, please. And I'm begging you, Brandon Staley, please go for it on 4th and 1 from your own 20-yard line again. Okay. Ooh, will I start Adams today? Ooh. You talking about Devontae? Leo 13. Thank you for hopping in. Bumpy Johnson came too. Bumpy Johnson came too. Elio, you talking about Devontae? Because if you're talking about Devontae, not only would you start him this week, you got to start him every week. That dude needs to be in your lineup every single. Yes, absolutely, 100%. I definitely know they're playing against the Jets. You need to start that dude every single week. Every single week. He is an absolute stud. Listen, I know he's been disappointing sometimes this year, but when you have a guy that is that talented, he is arguably the most talented receiver in the NFL. You have to start him every single week. And I think they will have a little bit of a drawback in terms of Pierce's debut that he had. They won that game big and all of that. Listen, I think maybe they take a step back this week against a tough Jets team, but they could also go out there and show up and show out. And I definitely want Adams in my lineup. Even if Sauce Gardner's on him, I'm still throwing him out there. So let's get into some of these other games real quick. All right, so we got the Giants at the Cowboys. Listen, I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this one. Dallas is going to run away with this. Daniel Jones is out for the year. Tommy DeVito gets the start this week. I'm not starting Barkley this week. Dak, CeeDee Lamb, Pollard, they're definitely getting started. Ferguson is starting to get more involved and showing that he's capable of taking over that Dalton Schultz role. I really like him, but I just don't know if this is the week to do it. The reason being is they may not be throwing the ball that often this game. They may just absolutely run over the Giants. Now, listen, hopefully you guys are sitting down for this. Dallas is getting 17 and a half points in this game. I can't even believe this is real life. I do not know the last time I ever saw a line like this. Maybe when the Patriots were in their undefeated season, there were lines like this, like when they were playing Miami or some of those teams that were really bad. But I can't remember the last time I saw a 17 and a half point line. That's ridiculous. So, all right, let's move on here. Washington at Seattle. So this game, listen, I expect Seattle to bounce back from that drubbing they went through with Baltimore. I expect them to be a lot better this week. I think Kenneth Walker is going to get back on track. Geno Smith, listen, he hasn't been exactly the way he was last year, and that's okay. to expect that he was going to be exactly like he was last year is unrealistic. This year, I think he's going to the rest of the season. I think they're going to be able to get it under control, especially in the second half. You're seeing Jackson Smith and Jigba more involved. The reason I know that, I'm seeing him in lineups against me more often in fantasy. It does not make me happy. So DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Kenneth Walker, you're definitely starting those guys. Sam Howell has been a decent start for streaming this year. I'm not starting him this week against Seattle's top-ranked secondary. I'm just not doing it, guys. I'm sorry. I don't think Brian Robinson makes the cut for me either. Terry McLaurin, I think you have to, and Jahan Dotson, I've been trotting him out there in some leagues. He just doesn't have the rapport that he did quite last year, and he's not playing as well as he was last year. I think he's getting missed on a few throws too. I would like to see a few cleaner routes by him, but I also would like to see more targets go his way. I don't think he's getting as many opportunities as McLaurin, but the way I see it, you got to earn opportunities. So I see Seattle winning this, especially with Washington coming off of Sweat and Chase Young. I just feel like Washington's not in win now here mode, and maybe they're kind of throwing at this point. Seattle, I expect them to run away with this game. Let's move on real quick. So we've got the Jets at the Raiders, and I know. Let's see. Oh, B Hop. You're talking D Hop. DeAndre Hopkins or Adams. Oh man, dude, that's so tough. There's no way you can start both. I, Listen, I would go Devontae Adams over him just because of opportunity, but DeAndre Hopkins does have a good matchup this week, so it's tough to be able to say that, especially him playing against Tampa Bay. I'm starting DeAndre Hopkins in a few of my leagues, but listen, if I had Devontae Adams, I would probably be starting him over DeAndre Hopkins. Again, you could flip a coin on that. That's a tough one, but listen, I personally would be starting Devontae Adams. All right, and we'll just break it down real quick. Listen, if you have anyone on the Jets, I'm sorry for you because of the quarterback there. Zach Wilson just has not. I was hoping they would move on from him by now. They haven't. He just hasn't been that good. But they have found ways to get Garrett Wilson more involved. I like it. He hasn't been as bad in fantasy, but I expected at least double the amount of points every week that he's scoring now with Aaron Rodgers there. Brees Hall, definitely running him out there this week as well. I really think they have a good shot against the Raiders. Again, when it comes to the Raiders, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, even Jacoby Myers, I'd be starting them this week just because I think they're going to have opportunities to be able to put the ball in their hands. Listen, Jacobs is not going to go off for 200 yards this game against the Jets. I just think he's going to get enough opportunities where you have to be able to put him out there, and you probably don't have someone better. Absolutely, Elio. Let me know if you got any other questions, man. All right, and I have the Jets winning this game. I know Antonio Pierce started last week. The Raiders win. It feels so good and everything, but I really think they come back down to earth. They're playing against a tough team in the Jets here. And the Jets have shown that even if they don't get solid quarterback play, they don't need it. They just need their defense to just hold you to 9 points, and they can usually put up enough in terms of that to be able to win the game. All right, let's see. Next one. Oh yeah, I would definitely swap out D Hop for Hollywood Brown. I would definitely do that. D Hop for Hollywood, absolutely, man, absolutely. All right, so we got Denver at Buffalo. Oh man, I know Denver's been playing. Let's go back real quick. Denver's been playing teams very tough lately. I know they had that win over Kansas City. I'm still not sold that Denver's as good as they were meant to be, as much as we envisioned them to be. Russell Wilson has been serviceable this year, but the defense was terrible at the beginning. They weren't giving them chances to win. Now you're seeing that the defense is starting to play better, starting to come into their own. I still think Vance Joseph's gone at the end of the year, and maybe we could get lucky and possibly get Rex Ryan in there. Rex Ryan and Sean Payton coaching on the same team, that could be a potent combination. But for now, listen, I'm still not starting guys on the Broncos. I'm really not. Javonte Williams, I guess if I get forced into a corner, I guess I would do it. The Bills are having trouble stopping the run, so maybe that's a good pick this week. But Judy, Sutton, I'm not trotting them out there. I'm just not doing it. Russell Wilson's if I really have to. Just because it seems like Buffalo's defense, with two aging safeties and all the injuries they've had with Milano and their defensive tackles, all of that, maybe Wilson would be a good opportunity this week. But I still think I don't want to trot out a quarterback that's playing against Von Miller. I just don't want to do it. Um, Anyhow, with Buffalo, listen, if you got Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, you're definitely starting them. James Cook probably as well as Dalton Kincaid. He's been playing very well. Gabe Davis, I'm talking to you, man. I'm so sick of your crap. You pop off for 1 week, score a bunch of points. I put you in my lineup, and you drop a dud. Not just a dud. 0 points. Seriously, man, I'm done with you. I'm done. That's why you are on my bench this week. And if I wasn't concerned about someone else in the league picking him up, I'd drop you. I really would. So I got Buffalo winning this game, though. I don't think anyone was going to pick Denver for this. I think Buffalo's got the better team. I think they're going to be able to handle Denver pretty well. All right, and we'll wrap up here, guys. Again, thank you for hopping in and supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. Um, Again, you can find me on Twitter at Willie Creamin FF, streaming here on Sundays on Twitch. I know due to the time change, it was a little different this week, but we had to push it back a little bit. But still, same time for you guys. I'm still trying to come in an hour before kickoff, give you guys some updates, some fantasy takes, stuff like that. Anything else you need, let me know. The Pulse podcast is the one I run with my buddy Al. We usually drop episodes on Tuesdays and Fridays. So if you have anything you want to know, definitely drop a subscribe, a follow over there. Let me know if you have questions, fantasy starts, anything like that. I'll make sure I hit you up in the podcast on it. Again, I really appreciate the support, guys. Thank you so much for coming out. Last one before we go here. I have Colorado. I'm going to put him in next game, or the San Francisco quarterback to start. Ooh, listen, against Jacksonville this week, I would definitely put in Purdy. And the only reason I say that is he gets Deebo Samuel back, and Trent Williams is going to be active. So he's got all of his weapons there. Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Kittle, CMC. And listen, you know all it takes is Purdy dropping the ball off to CMC on a screen pass, and CMC will take it 80 yards for a touchdown. So I feel like you kind of have to go Purdy this week until we kind of see what we have with Kyler Murray. I do like that stack potentially with Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown, but I just want to see it kind of play out first, see what happens with that. So, but again, guys, thank you so much. Good luck in fantasy this week. Thank you so much for the support. Again, you guys keep it real, and I'll catch you next week. Peace.